Hello, Leo GT here. First of all, oh Lord, happy Memorial Day, 2023. I want to take my hat off to anyone who served or is going to serve or has served or loved and known anyone who did, either here or who didn't make it. I appreciate you. Thank you. Now, as much as I'd love to leave my hat off, I cannot accomplish that. I already have no teeth. Without a hat, I'm in really bad shape. So I wanted to do, first of all, I wanted to acknowledge Memorial Day. Seems to be less and less people doing this each year that I live. And I seem to be noticing it more and more every year, even though other than a best friend suffering from PTSD, much love Mike, I really don't. My family knows not the tragedies of war. Only what I've read and seen, and that's someone's family. So it means just as much to me personally. So I want to react to something I've seen once. It was no kind of a holiday. I just happened to come upon it, and it hit me hard. Since then, I have found out that a lot of fact checking has been done, and some of the dates and facts on this story are not exactly accurate. Yet, from the fact checkers that I have fact checked, the meaning will still be the same. And the impact in which it has upon you will still be the same. Take away some labels and certain dates. So that being said, it is the Star Spangled Banner the way you've never heard it. And this is from a preacher during the middle of a sermon, a Christian preacher. As you know who follow the channel, I'm very spiritual. I love God. I do not claim any religion of any kind or belief system that entails anything other than my heart with my God. But to each their own. And what's well said is well said, and this preacher says this very well. So here we go. The Star Spangled Banner, as you may, we have never heard it. All right, let's do it.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness...
I can stop right there. I'll be honest, and maybe this makes me a poor American, but where does English and British stop and start? Are we as American British or English? Because I have a lot of friends on the Charismatic Voice who are British, English, Australian, lots of different places. And They all know where they came from. However, I'm kind of confused, and I live in this great land of the free. Now, I'm not putting down my country. I love my soldiers, okay? I love religious people. Do I love the government or the structures that may be in the religious institutions? Well, that's up for debate, and the answer to that's really simple. So, in no way am I downing Americans. I love Americans. I am an American. Proud to be one. Also, I'm not ashamed to say I don't really know where the hell we come from. All right, let's keep going.
The protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott.
All right, first of all, in the fact checking I've done, from what I understand, no one would have been allowed to do this. This would have all been done via telegraph or, hell, a pigeon with a damn message. I'm not sure, but anyway, there are small portions of this that it plainly says isn't right, although who's telling me it isn't right? All right. Left, up, down. Let's get back to it.
For one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says,
Okay, so the fact checking said that this is incorrect. There was only 50 ships, although 50 ships probably looks like a friggin' 100, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. The fact checkers are nitpicking at most from the message. And that this fort had no women and children, and that I think only 4 people died in this fight. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to keep fact checking because I wasn't there, and neither were the damn fact checkers. I think for myself, I question authority. And I question the ones who questioned this video that's in question. Any questions? Let's get back to it. Get my friggin' point.
It's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling. Every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now in...
So, I personally think the fact checkers are really mad because this is obviously a Christian preacher, and he mentioned the Christian American, which we all know everyone in America isn't Christian. Maybe this time that was more the non-stigmatic thing to say, but this day and time is, as I see nothing wrong with the Christian way, the inception and the ideals initially, and just the amount of war that we'll say religion in general has caused, makes me not want to label me as an American any kind of religious, although it seems like politics and religion are kind of in bed together in America. I may be wrong. Crucify me if you want. Give a damn, I'm an ex-felon. I can't vote anyway. My country don't say what I got to say don't matter. So, again, thank you to all the soldiers. Thank you to all the people calling the shots for the right reasons. And you can go to hell, all the ones that sent people over there for no reason, for your own agendas. If that never happened, then it didn't ever happen. I ain't talking to you. All right, so after what I just said, I still keep my eyes open. If somebody on the left says something makes sense, somebody on the right says something, if somebody in the religious institution if it makes sense, it makes sense. Then okay, I got you. I'm gonna apply that to my life because that makes sense, not because of the label that was over top of it. Let's get back to this. So, the Christian man got a good point. Just don't put a label on it, homie.
The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer. God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. What he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when hit had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star Spangled Banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?"
And I'm not going to watch this video because it goes on to promote a message and agenda, which is kind of the opposite of what the damn video is about, right? So, I ain't going to play the whole thing. The link's below. You can watch all you want. So, all of history is great allegories. In fact, that's what I, in my own opinion, think the Bible is, a wonderful collection of allegories and interpretations and situations that are true to life and hard to argue with. They're just good basic principles. Beyond that, I don't know, whatever you want to say, but so this is a song, and he has reactors and musicians and just music lovers. A song can have different interpretations to different people, so it don't really matter to me what the facts are and how many people check them. This song made me think of my flag in a different way, as more patriotic than I've ever felt. So, or this version, this story, this allegory, whatever, this made up friggin' thing to make me appreciate my flag. It worked. That's the power of influence and music, whatever. I had two questions that I thought spitefully in my head when I first heard this. And it was to the politicians and to the religious institutions. And hey, if we can't question each other and talk to each other, then how would we ever work anything out? It's supposedly being the two most agreeing factors or entities on the planet. They're all about compromise and understanding. So my questions were that stack of bodies, which fact checkers say don't exist. That didn't happen either. So hypothetically, the stack of bodies that held that flag up for that one purpose. To the politicians, when they were dying holding the flag up, do you think it really mattered to them at that point which one was left and which one was right? Let's think on that one for a minute. Also to the politicians, or to the religious institutions, to those men holding that flag up for that one purpose: unity, camaraderie, friendship, love, those purposes, freedoms. Do you think in their dying moments, if one accidentally said Jesus or Allah or Buddha or Krishna, that it would really matter as long as they were just saying, help me God? Let's think on that one too. This has been Danny Logan, the person, saying we should be more in touch with our feelings. We should understand your points of view better before you go arguing it, and understand that your point of view is only one of many. There are a lot of other points of view from people in total different situations that have lived in total different lives and traveled down different roads than you have, as vice versa, you than them. So I always try to keep that in mind. So this is the Star Spangled Banner as you've never heard it. And I'm going to assume, because I don't know, because I don't know everything. I don't know hardly anything, only what I see and how I interpret. But I'm going to assume that this is also, this video, the way you've never seen it broken down before, which is from the heart, the soul, and what I believe to be the truth. The truth fucking hurts sometimes, but it don't care about your feelings. So love each other. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all you who give your heart and soul and your lives so we can be assholes about Memorial Day. No, sorry, that was flight. So we can be free and love each other.